Hello, everybody. I'll talk a little slowly and give people time to log in, but I'm Susan Weinstein. I'm co-executive director at Families for Depression Awareness, and I am just so happy that you are taking the time to join us for our webinar, What If I Say the Wrong Thing? Tips for Communicating When Your Loved One is Depressed. This is part of our adult depression series. If you feel like you need to get a little more information on depression, we have a webinar specifically about that, so go check that out after. We also have reams of information on our website. So there's plenty of information about depression, but this is really special because we have not really done a lot about communication, and we're just thrilled to have this opportunity to share this content with you. Let's just start with some announcements. So we expect that the webinar will run about an hour and a half. If you are not able to stay for the whole thing, or if you would like to share it with someone, we will have the webinar on demand available to you shortly after we conclude. I would find it hard to believe that you're not familiar with Zoom by now. If you aren't, welcome. But during the webinar, keep your chat open because FFDA staff will be populating it with some links and information for you. You'll find a link to download the slides that we're going to be sharing tonight. You'll also be able to download a fact sheet that we have prepared. But the chat is not going to be open for chatting. If you have something that you want us to know, please use the Q&A. And please, if you have questions, use the Q&A. We have some that people submitted with their registration form. Thank you for doing that. But we're also welcoming you to submit your questions as we go along. Whenever you think of something, we're going to save them for the end. We do have some time set aside, and that's the beauty of us scheduling these for 90 minutes instead of just an hour. We will definitely try to get to as many as we can. And our presenter has indicated willingness to work with us if there are some that are left unanswered. All right, let me get started then. Yes, I was just saying if you don't know Zoom by now, but here I am. So Families for Depression Awareness, we're a national nonprofit organization. We're based in Massachusetts, but we are nationwide. We provide education, training, and support. Our mission is that we help families recognize and cope with depression and bipolar disorder to get people well and prevent suicides. Our philosophy is really that mood disorders affect the whole family. So, certainly while genetics may be at play with depression or bipolar disorder, it's also more about the way that relationships are affected, the way that people's well-being may be affected. It's that caregivers will often take on more than their usual allotment of tasks, and so they may be feeling burned out. But what we really are trying to bring attention to is that everyone in the family may have their own needs that we urge you to find ways to take care of them. Our website, it's great timing because we're in the middle of working on a totally new website. So enjoy this while you have it. Hopefully we'll have that done by the end of the year or really early in 2022. But one of the challenges that we have with our website is that it has so much information because we really want to make sure that people have access to the information that they need. Families for Depression Awareness is unique in that we focus on meeting the educational needs of family caregivers who are supporting loved ones with depression or bipolar disorder. And we just feel like our content is good. We want to get it out there. So if you have trouble finding things, use the search function, but also know that there is a more streamlined version that will be coming soon. In addition to the content that we have and our webinars and all sorts of things, we have these tests that are available that are anonymous and confidential, and we don't get your data. But one of the key ones that we have is the depression and bipolar test. It's just a simple assessment that people can do. We urge them to print out the results and take them to their clinician. Our newest addition to our online tools is the caregiver stress test, which is a way for caregivers to sort of check in on where they are with their stress. Goes into various levels based on this perceived stress scale. And then we point you to some resources that will hopefully help you find ways to manage your stress and ideally reduce it. Families for Depression Awareness, we were founded in 2001, and one of the first things that we really focused on was taking real people, sharing their real stories with their faces and their names. This was our way of saying that we need to raise awareness about depression and bipolar disorder, and we need to be working on the stigma that comes along with mental health conditions. A lot of people have and organizations have followed suit, but this is really still part of our core, is that by sharing people's stories, we know that it makes caregivers feel less alone. It gives them hope, and it provides them with some examples of how people have gotten through. So we have both ones that are written and ones that are video recorded. You know that we have webinars because you're here, but we also have a range of webinars. We have a whole teen mental health series. We have some programs on bipolar disorder. We have something on depression symptoms, which is part of our More Than Mood toolkit. And we really try to, we have in recent years gotten away from doing the same webinar over and over, realizing that people can access them on the website. And so we've been able to expand and create more series. So I would check those out. We also have a good amount of information on using health insurance, which is always a mystery for people as they navigate the mental health system. So those are available through the website at familyware.org/trainings. We also have publications. I believe that when you fill out the survey, you'll be getting one of our publications. So that's exciting for both of us. The Helping Someone Living with Depression or Bipolar Disorder is our Caregivers Handbook that we did a couple of years ago. It's so hard to keep track of time in this time of COVID, but we had really intended to replace a brochure that was about 18 pages, and we ended up with 60. So there's a whole lot of information in there. Our newest one is the Preventing Suicides brochure, and if you're interested in that, let us know. And if you're interested in sharing some, let us know. We have funding to distribute them nationwide. So for tonight, we're going to be covering a lot of ground. Excuse me. We're going to be talking about common considerations and communication practices. We're going to be talking about conflict management, which is really key to a lot of living with and supporting a loved one with depression. We're going to step back and talk about addressing some pitfalls. One of the things that we really want you to walk away with, in addition to getting some skills and some confidence, is that we want you to have hope. So we'll be talking about that a little bit. I'll come back on with some resources that we are offering, and we'll have questions and answers. So it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Chris Segrin. And I'm going to read this because I didn't memorize it. My apologies. Chris Segrin, PhD, is professor and department head of the Department of Communication and adjunct professor of psychology and family studies at the University of Arizona College of Social and Behavioral Sciences. As a behavioral scientist specializing in interpersonal relationships and mental health, Dr. Segrin's research focuses on social skills, relationship development and satisfaction, and problems such as depression, anxiety, loneliness, and marital distress. Recently, he's been conducting research studies on the intergenerational transmission of divorce, how social skill deficits make people vulnerable to depression, and why lonely people have more health problems than connected people. He teaches classes in interpersonal communication, nonverbal communication, persuasion, marriage and family, and research methods. Dr. Segrin is author of the books Interpersonal Processes and Psychological Problems and Family Communication, and he was editor of the journal Communication Theory from 2003 to 2005. Sounds like you're due for renewal on that one. Dr. Segrin has received 6 teaching awards from the University of Wisconsin, University of Kansas, and University of Arizona. He earned his PhD at the University of Wisconsin. It is my great pleasure to welcome you and turn the program over to you.
Thank you very much, Susan. Let me share my screen with you if I may. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. I just want to make sure, it's hard to get feedback. I'm looking at a slide called Common Considerations for Families Impacted by Depression. I hope that's the image on your screen. Okay, great. You never know with technology. I apologize for some of the lighting here. I'm on the western part of the United States. The day is presently turning into night. That's one of the difficult times to get the shadows knocked out, but hopefully as the sun goes down, things will improve somewhat. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to join me today. I know time is precious. It's our most valuable commodity. And I'm honored and humbled that you're willing to share yours with me. What I hope to be able to do for you, if you are struggling or suffering in some ways with a loved one or a family member who's got depression, is see if I can give you some tips, some pointers, even if it just brings some momentary relief in a particular difficult time. I think that'll be worthwhile. And I think if you can remember some of these things, they can serve you well in a lot of different contexts. We'll try to cover some different ground. I got to warn you from the outset, there's no magic solution. This is a difficult problem. You don't need me to tell you that. You know that already. But I want you to know that I know it too. There's a very difficult issue here to deal with. And let's take a look at some things we can do to maybe manage and make things a little bit smoother, a little bit more tolerable for ourselves and our loved ones.
As you go forward, why don't you put it into presentation mode or the slideshow?
I feel, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here.
It looks like you can resume slideshow.
Under slideshow? So I go to
from current slide.
From current, yeah, that's what I have. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was trying to get feedback on. I know it looks wrong to me too. So I'm trying to figure how I can get this out of this mode.
At the bottom of your screen, there's the thing at the slideshow that look 1, 2, 3, 4 over from that. Keep going.
Is that any better or not?
No. Go to the one that looks like a screen. Keep going. Keep going. There you go.
Ah, thank you. I'm struggling myself, as you can see. I always need helpers. We all need helpers from time to time. Thank you so much, Susan.
My pleasure to have somebody besides me dealing with technology.
Oh boy, where would we be without people to help us out, eh? Okay, common considerations for families impacted by depression. So here's some common ideas. Let's start with this. We need to understand that a person with depression essentially has a medical condition. Symptoms of depression are not a personal failing. It's so easy to get caught in that trap of thinking there's something wrong with this person, right? And that maybe they're doing this intentionally, or they should have control of this. That's not the case. And the reason when I talk to audiences, I talk about depression as a medical condition, is I want you to think about a medical condition. If someone said, I have, some health problem like pancreatitis or some dermatitis or bronchitis or some other itis, migraine headaches, would you say, oh, that's, you're doing something, you're at fault for this? Would you blame that person? No, but for some reason, a lot of people seem to feel like when someone has depression that they should be able to snap out of it or control themselves. No, they can't snap out of it or control that any easier than the person who has pancreatitis can make their pancreas work properly. It just doesn't work that way. So let's begin by having some understanding that of the person with the symptoms, as difficult as it may be for us as loved ones to deal with them. We have to remember they have a condition that is not entirely within their control, and they're not doing this with awareness or because it's some kind of personal failing. We also have to remember when we live with or interact with a loved one or a family member with depression that the healing process is not a linear process. Getting through episodes of depression will not go like an ascent up of a mountainside where you just keep getting higher and higher and higher. Rather, we know that treatment takes time and often requires trial and error. This is probably one of the biggest issues in the treatment of depression, one of the biggest obstacles, because how many of you have heard of this kind of scenario? You go to the psychiatrist or the psychologist or the physician, they give you an antidepressant medication, the person goes home, starts taking it, and like 2-3 days later, they go, I'm not going to take this anymore, it's not working. Hey, guess what? This is not like I have a headache and I'm going to take 2 Tylenol, right? Or expect an hour later I should be feeling better. Most of the antidepressant medications have a kind of ramp up effect. I would say the same about counseling and therapy. Who would walk into a therapist's office and expect to walk out an hour later like, hey, I'm trouble-free now? If only it worked that way. It doesn't. Think about it more like lifting weights or running to increase your physical fitness. Would you go into the gym, lift weights for an hour and go, okay, I'm really strong now? Of course not. Would you go out running 3 miles and go, okay, I'm fit, you know, my cardiovascular system is great? No, this is a long haul game. So treatment requires a lot of persistence. It requires time to take effect, and it requires some trial and error sometimes. Sometimes we try a medication, we try a counselor, we try a therapist, we don't like it, it isn't working for us, so we try another one. Okay, that's how it works. Again, much like physical fitness. Someone might try biking and go, this just isn't for me. Then they may try running. That may not be fun. Then they may try swimming and they go, yeah, that's the one I like. That works for me. Depression is not easily treated in a short period of time, typically. It is something that requires some patience for the patient and the loved ones around them. So just because your loved one, your family member is seeing a psychiatrist, seeing a psychologist, taking medication, you too need to be patient with them and realize that this will take some time. Just like if someone was healing up from a surgical procedure, a serious surgery, we know it can be 8 to 12 weeks sometimes for that knee replacement, you know, before you're kind of up and able to even walk again. And in the meantime, we have to be very patient with them. It's so important. Healing is not a linear process. There will be ups and downs along the way, and it will take time, but it can happen. That is the key. For many, many people, depression is a temporary state. We know unquestionably that depression affects the whole family. It's not one person's problem. The whole family is taxed by depression and the symptoms of depression and the difficulties of their loved one being down and out, having low motivation and indifference and negativity, and sometimes even hostility. Often depression presents itself in a form of hostility toward other people. And it can be very, very difficult to be on the receiving end of that. That causes a lot of strain in relationships. Often it's the case that family members want to help out. They want to do something to try to make this better. And that becomes frustrating when their efforts to do something to make things better for their loved one are not showing signs of paying off. Then the family members become frustrated and they get fed up and they get tired and they get exhausted. This is a very, very common experience. So depression ripples out and affects the entire family. There's absolutely no question about that. Just being aware of these points is a really decent starting point to working with and living with a person who's depressed, being aware of these points. Healing's not linear. This affects the whole family. This isn't a personal failing. Please keep those things in mind. They will, I think, bring greater insight and understanding to what it means to live with and work with to try to help someone who has depression. Let's talk now about some beneficial communication practices and interactions that can be used with people who have depression. So often, family members will say, I feel like I'm having to walk on eggshells all the time with this person, or I never know where I stand. And that's very common experience. What can we do in our interpersonal communication with our family member or our loved one who has depression to try to make things more positive and move in a positive direction rather than in a negative one? I'd like to present you with an idea, and that is an idea about consistency. People and animals, and of course we are animals, so why should we be included in this? We all benefit from predictability and consistency in our lives. Knowing how things are going to go from day to day. Does that mean we don't like variety? No, of course, variety is the spice of life. Some variety is a good thing. But at the end of the day, predictability and consistency is valuable, especially when someone is in a state of depression where their resources are somewhat depleted, they're somewhat stressed out. You can provide that predictability and that consistency that's so valuable. Whatever your style is, whoever you are as a person, stick with it. You don't have to change yourself to work with and live with and help manage someone who's got symptoms of depression. For those of you who are married to someone with depression, remember, that person chose to marry you at some point in their life for who you are. So you don't have to change who you are. You're fine just as you are. Stick with that. Be predictable. Try to minimize drama in your interactions. Try to keep an even keel and try to be that one element of their life that they can maybe count on and understand and predict. A lot of times people with depression get out of bed in the morning. You don't know what the day is going to be like. Sometimes they have good days. Sometimes they have bad days. Imagine what it's like to live in that state. And imagine how beneficial it would be to say, this other person in my family, they're my rock. I know they're always there. I can always count on them. I know what kind of mood they'll be in. Again, not a lot of fluctuation, not a lot of drama, to the extent that you can present that steady state to the person with depression. That is beneficial. Extreme mood shifts usually do not help the person with depression. There's a phenomenon, and you see this on the bottom of the slide, called emotional contagion. Contagion is got the same root as the word contagious, like to catch a cold or a virus, right? A contagious condition. Did you know that human emotions are contagious? That's true. You can catch an emotional state from another person who's feeling that same state. If you don't believe me, go to a sad movie and watch all the people cry during the movie. Or go to a funny movie and watch people laugh along with the character as the character laughs. Go to a drama and watch people get nervous and tense as the main character goes through a stressful situation. We catch each other's emotional states. That's part of being a social animal. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means if you're happy, if you're upbeat, if you're optimistic, there's a chance your emotional state can be caught. It's contagious by someone else in your family. Alternatively, if that other one in your family is down and out and miserable and pessimistic, this is a natural human phenomenon that you need to fight, because that could easily drag you down, and there's no shame in that. Emotional contagion works on you as well as it works with you. So you have to be mindful of not getting caught up in that sticky spider web of negativity that family member is weaving with his or her pessimism, and do your very best to try to be positive, upbeat, and again, consistent, so that your positive emotional state may reflect, may rub off ever so slightly on them. This is a challenging topic. How do we provide support to someone who we are close to while still maintaining boundaries? It is so important for depressed people to know that there are others in their life who are there for them. And by that, I mean really being present and receptive and genuine, that they can count on you when they have needs. That is so highly beneficial. Just being there for somebody and being present and being in the moment with them. Always being sure that you're following your words with actions. Do you know what integrity is? The word integrity? Here's a simple definition. It's when you say you're going to do something and you do it. Have integrity. It'll serve you so well in your social relationships with other people. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. And be known as the person who, when they give you their word that they're going to do something, you can count on it. They will do it. You will be of so much value to the people in your life if you just follow that one simple concept of integrity. Say I'm going to do something, then you bet I'm going to do it. Again, that provides the kind of consistency that people with depression can really benefit from and really lean on during their hard times. Remember too, that the provision of support isn't an unlimited phenomenon. You have to set boundaries. There's how much support can you give? If you burn yourself out to a frazzle, then you won't be of much value to other people. So what you have to know is, where are my limits? And you have to pace yourself and how much support and how much care you can provide to somebody else while you are providing it to yourself. You're watching out for your own well-being. So they always say this when you get on the airplane, right? In the unlikely event of a sudden loss of cabin pressure, put your own oxygen mask on first before you start helping others around you. You need to have a fresh supply, a good supply of oxygen in order to be able to help other people. And that's not a selfish thing to do, to put your mask on first. In fact, it's a selfless thing to do, because it will allow you to then provide care for other people who are struggling. But if you're unconscious because you don't have enough oxygen, what good will you be of other people? So if providing support burns you out to the point that you just have no emotional energy left and you're exhausted, you've crossed that boundary. And you have to find a way in the future of saying, okay, this is enough for now. I need time out. This is all I can do for now. I'm going to come back when I'm refreshed, maybe tomorrow, and we'll pick this up where we left off. But there's nothing wrong necessarily with stepping back, making time for yourself. Be mindful that as you help somebody with depression, this is a journey of constant trial and error, trying different types of medication, trying different therapies, different counselors, different self-care activities, different pleasant events that maybe the person with depression might enjoy. And sometimes they don't work out that way. You try something, it doesn't work. Don't get frustrated. Don't try to do it all at once. Let this unfold over time. Sometimes, on certain days, we just need to stop what we're doing and go, okay, I'm done for today. Let's pick this up again tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Okay, conflicts. It's hard to imagine a relationship with a loved one who has depression without some opportunity for conflict. Even if they're not depressed, you're going to have conflict. Conflict is an inevitable part of human life. And you know what? There's nothing inherently wrong with conflict either. Human conflict can actually be beneficial. We learn about each other. We learn about ourselves through conflict. It's how we manage conflict that can either be destructive or beneficial. So let's talk a little bit about what to do when conflicts come up. And as I said, it's almost unimaginable that a person would be in a relationship with someone who has depression and never experience any conflicts. Because even if they don't, you're going to have conflicts. I would like you to please remember this phrase. Separate the person from the problem. When a conflict comes up, think about the problem and then focus on that problem, not the person who is presenting the problem to you. And let me explain. Let's say you tell your partner, hey, my folks would like us to come over for dinner at their house on Friday night. and you really want to do this and you want to bring your spouse with you, and your spouse says, or your partner says, I don't want to go. You have a choice at this point about how you're going to address this conflict. And this choice will set the stage really for the rest of the conversation. You could respond something like this. You know, you never want to go to my parents' house. What's with you? You're like a bad cliche. You don't get along with your in-laws. What's wrong? Is my mother's cooking no good for you? You don't like it? Notice in that direction that I'm going, I'm making the problem really the person, right? You never, and you always, and what's wrong with you? And you don't like my mom's cooking? What's the deal? I'm making you the problem here, really. There's something wrong with you that I have to now deal with. You think people don't pick up on that? They pick up on it real quick, and it doesn't make them feel very good. It makes the conflict usually just worse. If, on the other hand, I politely maybe ask, well, why don't you want to go over there? You know, in a non-judgmental way. Or wouldn't it be nice just to go over for a little while? We don't have to stay late, you know, soften up the request a little bit like that. I'm focusing on the problem. I want to have dinner with my parents. You don't want to have dinner with your in-laws. And talk about that. Talk about alternatives. Okay, well, I have no problem telling them we can't make it this Friday. You want to try for another night? See, again, I'm not focusing on you, the person. I'm focusing on the problem, the eating dinner at the in-laws. And let's stay focused on that. If you can remember this phrase, to separate the person from the problem and keep the discussion as much as you can on the problem and keep it away from personality, keep it away from intentions. And for crying out loud, please, no mind reading. We're not here to read other people. You're doing this because blah, 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 right? Oh, that's so destructive in conflict. Don't try to read the other person's mind. Just let them tell you what their reasoning is. Even if you feel you know what they think. No one likes to have their mind read to them back then. I know you're really doing that because, you know, such and such. You had an argument with my dad last time and you don't ever. No, don't do that. That makes conflicts spin out of control and in a completely wrong direction. Perception, human perception is so important during conflict. If you can pause for a moment and try to use perception as a tool to generate understanding, not just your perception, but try to maybe put yourself in their shoes. A great way to resolve and to manage conflicts is to start by trying to understand where are they coming from. Do not deduce their intentions from your fears. This is a very common problem in conflict. You don't like my in-law, my parents, your in-laws, you know, therefore we'll never have a good relationship with them. And then my parents are going to reject me because I can't have a spouse who gets along with them, and mushrooming into these big things. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to project my fears onto you with that kind of talk. Not a good idea. If you want to know what someone else's intentions are, just ask them. But don't project your fears onto their intentions and try to extrapolate what they're thinking from what you're worried about them thinking. And believe it or not, a lot of people do this. And again, I'm not saying it's a shameful thing to do. It's probably a normal human reaction to do that, but we have to be mindful of that because that does not help us in conflict situations. It doesn't serve us well. Blame. I have so little use for blame. I know if you're an attorney and you're in civil court and you want to figure out liability, you know, I get it. You know, you got to sometimes deal with blame. Who's at fault for this? Here's why I don't like blame. Blame is a backward looking cognition, right? Blame is always looking backwards. Who messed up? Who screwed up? Who's responsible for this? Whose fault is this? I say, who cares? It's over with. You can't change the past. So digging up the past, what good is that in conflicts? And blame invariably digs up the past because blame is a backward looking thought process. So don't blame them for the problem. View the problem as something that has presented itself to you. My mom always used to say to me, it takes two to tango. And isn't that the truth? When we have a conflict, multiple parties have a role in that conflict. It's not one person's fault that they're at blame. And speaking of perception, What can we do to help other people save face? A lot of times in conflicts, things spiral out of control because people threaten and insult each other in ways that are hurtful and threaten their sense of face, their sense of self-esteem and self-image. So calling someone a name, you stupid, you fool, that's very face-threatening. A great technique to open up lines of dialogue is to offer somebody what I call an off-ramp. You know, like when you're on the interstate and there's an off-ramp and you can get out of this. Well, okay, fine. What if we don't go to dinner Friday night? How about if I just ask them if we could reschedule maybe later in the month? I'm giving you that off-ramp, right? I'm helping you save face. I don't have to make you feel bad, like you've ruined this Friday night. And I'm trying to maybe present an alternative where I don't construe you as the problem. Let's just come up with an alternative solution, and we don't even have to agree on it now, maybe later on, you know, and that way you don't have to feel like I'm threatening you in any way or that I'm harming your self-esteem or self-image. I wish more people would do that in conflict, because sometimes conflicts get so vicious and some people are motivated, like, I got to win this conflict. I got to win this. And they'll do anything to win it. And they'll get really nasty with other people and end up hurting their feelings and hurting their face. And then that hurts their relationship. And you know what? Those conflicts don't go very well. Befriend your enemies, and you will be surprised at how successful you will be in conflict. Befriend your enemies. Put yourself in their shoes. Help them to save face. It sounds counterintuitive. That's how you actually win conflicts. And skilled negotiators know that. Well, we could talk all night about emotions. Let's say a few things. Emotional awareness is really worthwhile when you're interacting with any other person, but certainly if you have a family member or loved one with depression, try to recognize and understand their emotions as well as yours. What are their emotions? What are they feeling right now? And it's okay to even ask people that, like, how do you feel about this? There's nothing wrong with asking point blank if you're not clear how they feel. And be mindful of your own emotional reactions. A big one for a lot of people as it deals with conflict is anger. Feel your anger welling up. Sometimes people get so flooded by their own anger, they're really best literally taking a time out. Like, hold on a second, you know, I got to go get a drink of water or something. Let me, you know, go to the kitchen, get a drink, and I'll be right back. And just settle it down a little bit. Take a break. Anger causes people to start making really irrational and decisions that don't benefit sophisticated and complicated conflicts very well. They tend to dumb down our approach, really, because as we get stressed and anger, we get into a more primitive mode of communication. Not a good idea. Also, when someone else is emotional, give them some conversational space to let off steam. It's another great way to help people save face and feel good about you. What's on your mind right now? What are you thinking? And if they feel angry or mad, let them just go off for a while and just listen. All you have to do is nod your head and, yeah, I see that. Oh boy, you know, that's terrible. Agree with them. Give them a chance to let some of that anger out. A lot of times after they do that, they can bring down the temperature a little bit, bring down the blood pressure a little bit, and you can have a more calm and relaxed conversation. But you might need to start by giving them an opportunity to let off steam. And certainly when we're talking about emotions, it's so important in conflicts to stay calm as best as you can and not to react to emotional outbursts. There's a time in your life for getting emotional, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're in a conflict, a serious conflict with a loved one, that's the time to be the air traffic controller or the 911 operator at dispatch. Very calm people. They can listen to terrible things coming in over the telephone and still, or the communication system with the airplane, and still maintain a calm demeanor. Very important. It's so easy to get caught up in a person's emotional outburst. A very simple example might be they raise their voice at you and start shouting. What's the first thing most people do? They shout back, right? That's the emotional contagion effect. You're angry, you show me your anger, it makes me angry, I'm going to show you my anger. That's what animals do out in the wild. We've got to be able to rise above that and try not to. It's normal to do it. I'm not saying there's any shame in that. That's a normal tendency to do that, but let them blow off the steam, keep a calm demeanor as best you can, and don't get caught up in those emotional outbursts. It's so important in conflicts to separate facts from feelings. Let feelings come out. They can be part of the conflict. Let them come out, but view them as sort of a background issue. Stick to the problem and don't let the feelings become the conflict itself. Some other communication tips when we're dealing with conflict situations. Listen actively and acknowledge what is being said. To listen actively means you're paying such careful attention that you can actually recite back to them what they said to you. And that's not a bad idea from time to time, especially if you're unclear. Like, it sounds like what you're saying is you don't want to move to Atlanta. Is that right? That's actually a hallmark sign of active listening. I'm listening to you. Maybe you're saying something that puzzles me, but I'm listening carefully enough that I can actually paraphrase what you've said back to you. That's a great way of showing someone you're actively listening, or acknowledging that, like, oh boy, yeah, that does sound like you had a bad day. That kind of acknowledgement shows that I'm actively listening to you, as opposed to, yeah, I'm looking away, not even, no, that's not listening. That's pretending to listen. Active listening is, I'm taking this in so much, I can repeat it back to you. When you speak to people who are having conflict with you, especially if they have symptoms of depression, speak to be understood. Be simple, be clear, be direct. Avoid vague ideas, sort of strange references, super stylized language. Just keep it simple and speak to be understood. Do your best to make yourself easily understood. If there's something on your mind, say it. Don't make them drag it out of you. Help them out in the conversation. Just put it out there, what's on your mind, and be direct. Most people will appreciate that most of the time. The other thing in conflict is to speak about yourself, not them. So many times in conflicts, we're motivated to want to talk about what they're doing. And I say it should be I statements, not you statements. In a conflict, they should almost ban the word you. If you're having a conflict, stay away from the word you. It should be I. I feel this, I think this, I wonder about this. I want to know this. I would like you to know this, but it's not you said this, you always that. Whew, that puts people on the defensive, not helpful. Okay, prevention. What can we do to keep these conflicts from taking off in the first place? Building a working relationship. And this is, again, goes back to the consistency idea. I know where I stand with you. I know where you are in my life. You know where I stand with you. You know where I am in your life. If we can have this alliance, that's half the battle right there. And again, we always know that we're going to face the problem, not the person. I'm not going to make our conflicts about you. I'm going to make them about the content, the disagreement, the issue itself. And that's what we're going to work through together. That's the key. Here is a very sophisticated technique for conflict and negotiating with other people. And that is to focus as best you can and to discover, you have to be a little bit of a detective, on their interests, not their positions. Interests are what define the problem. There are desires or our concerns or our underlying motivation. The position is the ostensible statement, right? The thing that I'm making it my position that I don't want to go to my in-laws' house for dinner on Friday night. That's my position. What's my interest? Who knows? Could be a lot of different things. Maybe I don't like my mother-in-law's cooking. Or maybe the Red Sox are playing on TV tonight and I want to see this key game. There's all kinds of things. Or maybe I'm just exhausted from my day at work. Those are all interests I have and I want to relax. But they're not part of my position. My position is simply, I don't want to go to my in-laws' house for dinner. I don't want to go to your parents' house for dinner tonight. Your job now is to try to figure out why that's the case. Because underneath every conflict is some sort of interest, some sort of almost dream, some sort of desire. So try to identify what the conflicting interests are. And by the way, why do you want so badly to go to your parents' house for dinner? Maybe you're feeling disconnected from them and you'd like to get reconnected with them. Maybe you're feeling that they're giving you a guilt trip and you want to do something about it. This is the stuff we need to be talking about. You see what I'm getting at? I want to go to my parents' house for dinner. I don't want to go to your parents' house for dinner. That's merely the stage on which we're enacting this play of our competing interests. So let's get down to them and maybe ask why, and not asking why in a judgmental way, but like, well, what's up? How come you don't want to go to my folks' house for dinner tonight? That kind of tone. And see if you can get at, well, there's a baseball game on TV, or, well, your dad is really mean to me every time I go by, or your mom is not a very good cook. See if you can get into some of those issues. It'll help you to understand your partner a lot better. Also, think about their choice. Don't just stay focused on yours. Think about their choice and ask, why not? What's wrong with their idea? Like maybe we could stay home and watch the baseball game together tonight. That could be a good time. And maybe there's really nothing special about Friday night. Maybe Saturday night or Sunday night we could get together and have dinner. So realize that there's always opportunities for multiple motivations that people might have. And somewhere in the nexus of those multiple motivations might be some mutual interests that we can both agree on. Like, we'd both like to spend time together, wouldn't we? Sure. Well, having dinner at my parents' would do that. Or if I watch the baseball game with you, that would do that as well. So maybe we could satisfy that interest with either your choice or my choice. Maybe we could do both. We could go to the baseball game and then go to dinner on some other night. Or maybe after dinner, we could, at the parents' house, we could flip on the baseball game and we could do the whole thing in one ball of wax. Who knows? Remember, meeting basic human needs, that's the most powerful interest people have. People want to be safe. They want to be secure. They want to be respected. They want to be admired. They want to be connected with others. These are some of the fundamental interests that people have that will often express themselves in a variety of different ways in conflict. So be on the lookout for those. Try to understand those. And again, always try to be looking forward, not looking backward when we're in a conflict. Okay. Some of the pitfalls that are encountered in communication with people who are living with depression. We talked about this before, the tendency to blame and focus on the past. Oh boy, no good. Not going to serve you well, not going to help a lot. You can't, why? Because you can't change the past. You can apologize for the past, sure, but you can't change it. Better to start the conversation, better to keep your conversations focused on the here and now and the future, rather than rehashing the past. That's such an unfortunate trap that people get caught into, where they keep grinding on the past. Also, people are often hesitant to start the conversation about their concerns, and they've got to find a way of getting over that hesitancy, having that ability to step forward and say, look, this is on my mind. And that takes some bravery sometimes, certainly some initiative. A lot of times people are worried about saying the wrong thing. And this can be very difficult as well, because that's the walking on eggshells problem. But if we don't even try it, then it almost guarantees that the problem is not going to go away. So we have to be willing to, as we say, there's an old saying, you have to crack a few eggs in order to make a good omelet. You got to take a crack at it. You got to try it. There may be some damage along the way, but in the end, trial and error is often how we figure out what works and what doesn't work with people. As long as we can be respectful and know when to back away, we can do this usually with some effectiveness. Reassurance seeking is a big problem in depression. A lot of times depressed people will make self-deprecating remarks, and they're often doing it as a tool for communication. In other words, what they're doing is seeking reassurance from you. So I'll say, I'm no good at that. I'm just stupid. I'm worthless. What's the point? Yes, I'm expressing a thought, but I'm also pulling for something from you. I want you to say, oh no, you actually are a nice guy. You actually are worthwhile. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's what happens. At first, other people will generally do this. Of course, you're not that bad. No, don't say that. That's not true. What happens is that caregivers will get frustrated if the person is not getting better. So they'll make the self-deprecating comments. The caregiver will challenge those with positive comments very often. But if they don't see it having a positive effect, after a while, this starts to wear down. And what happens is it leads to rejection. Okay, I'm done. I've had it with you. I've heard enough of this. I told you you're attractive. I told you you're smart. I told you you're brilliant. I told you you're a wonderful father or mother. And you still keep acting this way. So I've had enough of it. That's what often happens. Rejection then. And then what that does is it plays into the person's negative views of themselves, which they already have a problem with because of the depression. They pick up on that. People with depression are very astute at picking up on how other people are treating them. And any sign of rejection, their radar screen is so sensitive to rejection. So this is a very careful tightrope that you have to walk. On the one hand, you don't want to leave their self-deprecating remarks unchallenged, so they can walk around thinking they're worthless and of no value to the world. But on the other hand, if you're providing positive feedback and reassurance to them, you have to be careful not to get frustrated to the point where you start sending rejecting messages to them. In other words, be wise about this. This is a thinking person's game. Don't expect that just because you say to them, you are attractive and you are lovable and you are intelligent, that's going to go, okay, great, everything's fine now. Don't expect that. It doesn't work that way. This is, remember we said before, you're in this for the long game. This is the long game. This does not happen in a conversation. Support without enabling, so important. People with depression will often make statements of self-worth. Again, as we said, people will provide reassurance and challenge those. And what happens is that's temporarily rewarding. Who doesn't like to be heard, be told rather, how attractive they are, how intelligent they are, how nice they are, how valuable they are, how terrible our world would be without them. That makes you feel good to hear that kind of talk. The problem is that good feeling often motivates people with depression to pull for more of that. It's like giving a child candy. I give you candy, you like the candy. What are you going to do? You're going to start asking for more candy or behaving in whatever way you did to get candy originally. We have to be very careful because this becomes what we call a coercive process, where the person with depression makes self-deprecating comments with the hope of getting positive reassurance back. It comes back to them, they like it, and then they just ask for more, right? Because this feels good to be told, I'm nice, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, and so forth. So the challenge for the loved one and the family members, where do you draw the line with providing challenge to their self-deprecating comments without excessively rewarding them for it, so that they continue to solicit it in the future? Obviously, we're not going to agree with their self-criticism, but at some point in time, we have to put an end to showering them with compliments and just keep an even keel. And sometimes you just have to say, hey, we've gone over this. I've told you that's not true. You actually are an intelligent person. All right, no, I told you before, I really do admire you. And I mean that. And that's all you have to say. Don't make it dramatic and so embellished to the point that it feels fantastic to them, so much so that they're going to pull for more of it, and you're going to get in that coercive spiral. Those get exhausting and they get frustrating. You have to know where your limit is and then not cross over that. It's very difficult. It's much easier said than done. But again, understanding the process is the first step in solving that problem. Avoid a repair project mindset. Guys out there, we do this all the time, right? We're brought up to fix stuff. Something's broken, let me try to fix it, right? Hey, there's no shame in that. That's a great attribute, actually. I love people who try to fix problems. We need more people like that in the world. But this is not going to be one of those where you can just open your toolbox and come up with the right solution. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The repair person kind of approach becomes frustrating and exhausting. In other words, we're setting ourselves up for failure. We're trying to fix a problem that can't really be fixed with the tools that we have. Again, no shame in that. That's just a reality. If a person, an ordinary person like me, could just walk up to someone with depression, have a conversation with them and fix it, geez, what kind of planet would we be living on? It'd be a lot different than it is now. It doesn't work that way. So don't put yourself in that situation, that this is a problem for you to fix, that this is a project for you to take on and repair them. That tends to make people feel like they're a failure, or maybe even make them feel angry when they're not getting the results that they like. And it's very often the case that they're not going to get the results they like. Think about how they are seeking treatment and what you can do to support their treatment goals. So can I give you a ride to therapy or to counseling or to the drugstore or remind you to take your medication? Or maybe you've been told to engage in some pleasant activities and maybe I can do some with you. Hey, you like playing Frisbee in the park? Let's go out and do that. Or let's go to the movies. How can I support you in your goals, your therapeutic goals, rather than let me roll up my sleeves and take this on myself? That repair project mindset doesn't work very well. And it often, again, leaves the caregiver in a very frustrating and exhausting position. And just remember, there isn't a magic wand. There's not a magic tool in the toolbox. If I had this tool and I could spin it and implement it the right way, I could fix it. It unfortunately does not work that way to make the problem go away. That's just the nature of depression. We need to understand that. If someone had cancer, I wouldn't just go, well, let me see what I can do to make that better. No, the best I can do is put myself in a supportive role. I will give you rides to chemotherapy, or I'll take you to the doctor, or I'll cook dinner for you when you're not feeling good and so forth. I'll do these things, but I am not going to be the agent of repair. It just can't work that way. Okay, and our last topic is keeping hope as a caregiver. How do you maintain position of hope? Hope is so important, people. My friends, it has been said, without hope, you cannot start the day. Without hope, you cannot start the day. You've got to have hope every morning when you get out of bed. And there's reasons to be hopeful. There's no quick fix. We're in this for the long haul. Depression takes time. But there will be periods of reprieve and happiness. There's good days and there's bad days. You got to become a master at seizing those good days, noticing them when they're there and savoring them, making the most of them while they're there. Knowing that there will also be dark times, stretches of difficulty. You're going to be steady. You're going to be relentless. You'll be that rock and you'll get through those times. There'll be times where you just have to say, you know what? This day is a write-off. That's it. This day is shot. There's nothing I can do to make this better. Tomorrow is another day. Let's sleep it off, do our own thing for the rest of the day, and start tomorrow fresh. There's nothing wrong with that. But be hopeful. There will be better times. Many, many, many cases of depression will go into remission. They'll come back and they'll go back into remission. And they'll come back and they'll go into remission. You find those times when they're in remission, the person's happy and open and receptive, you make the most of those times. It's like living in an environment like, the Pacific Northwest, where it's usually cloudy and raining most of the time. But every now and then they have sunny days. And then you have to go out and get your bike out, get your running shoes on, get your Frisbee out, your golf clubs, and make the most of those sunny days. That's what it's about, being happy in that environment. And knowing when to take a break for your own benefit. So much value in that. Saying today is a day for me. I'm going to do something for me. You're not being selfish for doing that. You're trying to make yourself as well as possible so you can be there for your loved one. That's not a selfish act at all. Never ever stop the search for that which the two of you and perhaps your family can enjoy together. Always keep looking, keep trying. Be the movies, the baseball game, fishing, camping, biking, running, making puzzles, playing cards together. Try out different things and keep looking for things that you enjoy together. There's an infinity of possibilities. You could spend your life trying out different activities to see what you like together. But that's part of what this is. As we said, one of the themes here is trial and error. Keep trying to find things that the two of you can enjoy together, that bring happiness to your partner's life, to your family member's life. And live in the moment and live for the moment. The way to get through hard times very often is to not focus on the past and not worry about the future. Stop what you're doing right now and soak in the positive things that are happening to you around you right now in this moment. So many people get caught up in worries about the future or angst about the past that they never live in the present. And you can be the model to the person with depression for how you do that, how you savor the current moment. Set the tone. Optimism starts with you. You set the tone for optimism each morning when you get out of bed and you have hope and you know today can be a good day. Depression is treatable. And so keep on trying. One more day, one day at a time. It is treatable. Many, many people with depression are effectively treated. If you act like you know what you're doing, 90% of the time, people will treat you like you do. That is so true. Your confidence influences other people's thoughts and opinions and attitudes about you. Like, hey, this person seems like they know what they're doing. You get out of bed in the morning and you have hope, you have optimism, you have good feeling, and you act like you know it. This isn't just an act. I really feel this way. People around you are going to start saying, yeah, maybe life is worth living after all, because he or she seems to have picked up on that. They seem to have figured something out here. You show them how you set the tone. Express your own hope and optimism for the future. Someday things will get better. This is maybe a bad day, but tomorrow can be better. Don't buy in to people's pessimism. You do not have to do that. It's amazing, the power of the human mind, even in difficult circumstances. You can get out of this. You can get through this. Remind the family member that the passage of time may very well work to their favor. That old saying, tomorrow is another day, yeah, it's a cliche, but like a lot of cliches, we repeat it so often because there's more than a kernel of truth in it, isn't there? Tomorrow is another day. Maybe something better will come along tomorrow. And it's also valuable to try to plan something, look forward to the future. Depressed people are very often devoid of things that they look forward to. So a vacation, a trip, even like maybe this weekend we'll go to the movies, a simple thing, or maybe we can go out to eat or go out to lunch tomorrow. Give them something to look forward to. All people need something to look forward to. And you, as the caregiver, as the loved one, as the family member, you can be that something that they look forward to. You can be the agent. You can be the conveyor belt to that something that they look forward to. And you will have value to them, and they will benefit immensely from that. I hope some of these points are things that you can remember, you can put into practice in your own life. And I wish each and every one of you the very best with, I know these are difficult and trying circumstances, and I look forward to taking your questions shortly.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Segrin. That was amazing. And like, there are all these great ideas. And I think the thing that we need to accept that they're hard to do. Some days are harder than other days, and we just do the best we can and we keep trying. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions. We will be getting to them shortly. I believe you will, if you look in the chat, you'll see that there's a link to a survey. We really value your feedback. We would love to send you a publication. So please take the time to fill out the survey. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes here, and then we're going to get right into the questions. One of the things that we have found really helpful is for families to get together and create an action plan. You identify a specific problem that needs attention, and we created this template that helps a group of people sort of crystallize what the issue is and what steps they're going to take to address it. So I would urge you to check it out and download it and use it for a variety of circumstances. Family therapy is something that we recommend to people. If your loved one is reluctant to seek care for themselves, often it's a way to bring them in. This is for the good of the family, and then that can help demystify what therapy is and might make them more willing to get a therapist for themselves. On our website, we have tons of resources. Please, if you're feeling like your stress has been climbing, check out the caregiver stress test. I would remind you just that we have a ton of stuff. I'm not going to read the whole list for you, but if you're just getting started being a caregiver, I really recommend to you the Stages of Change videos that we've prepared, and to read about the role of the family caregiver. if you need help, there are ways to get it. There are all sorts of emotional support lines. We suggest people call 211. It's nationwide. If you are caring for someone who is trans, there's a special line for that. Veterans, there's a special line for that. People who speak Spanish, there's a line for that. So if one of these does not answer your need, feel free to reach out to us, but also, Google search, ask providers, all sorts of ways to find help. And as I was just saying, please fill out the survey and get a copy of our hefty handbook. I want to thank our funders. We would not be able to do these programs for free if it were not for their support. So our sustainer corporate members include Takeda and GeneSight. Our friend level corporate members include Janssen Neuroscience and Sage Therapeutics. And our program sponsors for our adult depression program include the Takeda Lundbeck Alliance, Janssen Neuroscience, and the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. I would like to very much thank Dr. Segrin for sharing all of those great ideas with us. I want to thank each one of you for spending this time with us. If this was helpful to you, we would very much appreciate you sharing a donation with us to help us continue to do the work that we do to help families stay together and save lives. All right. I want to give a caveat on the questions and answers, and that is that, actually I can close this and people can just see us. There we are, hi. That sometimes people ask questions that are very specific to their own situation and we're not really able to generalize them. And so those are ones that we're probably not going to be able to get to. If you are really struggling with a loved one or with your own issues, there are those helplines that we just talked about. Also, reach out to a clinician, talk to a therapist in your area and see what they might suggest. So you said that, I'm paraphrasing, but people need to be brave about starting conversations. But how do they find what's a good time and what are good ways to start these difficult conversations?
That's a great question. I think there's great value in understanding people's nonverbal behaviors, first of all. Not what they're saying, but maybe something from like their posture, where their eye contact is focused and things like that. If they're coming across as receptive versus distracted, and knowing when the time is to jump in and try to capture their attention. People will very often send out signals that like, I'm open for business or no vacancy, and that's kind of what it's like. It's reading the vacancy or no vacancy sign that kind of is, sorry about my dog, is coming out through the nonverbal behaviors, their eye contact, their posture, their gesture, things like that. The general advice is to use what we call soft startup. A soft startup is easing somebody into a topic, easing them into the issue rather than, hey, I got a bone to pick with you. That's not a great way to start. Hey, I was wondering if I could maybe, pick your brain for a minute about something. You got a second? And if they say no, then let it go. Say, okay, we'll pick it up again tomorrow. Ease into it and help them save face if they don't want to do it. Very important techniques.
I'm grateful that it's your dog and not mine.
I'm sorry about this. He seems to have the worst timing.
I think that we're so far into this pandemic and people having all sorts of meetings and just kids running in and whatever. Well, I guess speaking of this pandemic, someone asked, how can I comfort and reassure people that they'll be okay as we continue to fight COVID?
Another excellent question and very timely. The pandemic has brought a lot of stress into a lot of people's lives. There's no question about that. And one moment, let me try an experiment real quick. I think if I let him in the room, he'll stop barking at me. Knowing what people have been through, and different, no two people have had the same stressful reaction and experience and loss, but showing respect for that and understanding for that. But above all else, again, going back to that idea of hope, statements of hope, focusing on things are getting better. We will return back to normal. So many people, especially children, need to be reassured that we will get through this. And we've got through so many difficulties in our nation, from the world wars to the Spanish flu, to the Great Depression, to the 9/11 attacks. They've been difficult. They've left scars. There's no question about it. They were challenging, but we made it through. And in some cases, we even are stronger and better for having been through those experiences. This is one of those. This will define our character in many ways, but there's so many indicators right now, today, this very moment, that are showing that things are going in a positive direction. And a lot of techniques that have been developed for coping with this and treatments for it seem to be working. So when you reassure people with evidence like that, that is part of what builds hope. This does not have to be viewed as a hopeless situation.
Okay, mine are now getting started. There are a lot of questions that have come in that talk about the person's reaction as being the person living with depression or experiencing depression. That they're angry, that they walk away, that they have a negative response, that they say, this is your problem, not mine, those kinds of things. Do you have some advice in that regard?
Yeah, first of all, this is an exercise in developing and cultivating our thick skin. Depression is not a problem for the faint and the fragile-hearted. Coping with a loved one who has depression definitely requires a thick skin. Just like living with an alcoholic does. They say things and then we say, that's the alcohol talking. That's not them. Or I say, that's the depression talking. You've got to be able to recite that phrase to yourself. That's the depression talking. They don't really feel that way about you. They just said that in the heat of the moment. Remember that depression will cloud people's judgments sometimes and make them angry, make them say hurtful things. Our job is to try to let as much of that roll off as possible. And to also, when the time is right, let them know that, hey, that hurts my feelings when you talk that way or when you say those things about me. There's nothing wrong with challenging them, but don't do it in the heat of the moment. When people don't want to communicate with us, it's very difficult to sort of wrestle them into communication, and even if you could, do you think you're going to have a good outcome? I doubt it. Most of the time, the best conversations and the most fruitful conversations we have with other people are when both parties want to have those conversations. We call that mutuality. Mutuality. It's mutual. I want to talk to you. You want to talk to me. But if one party doesn't want to talk, most of the time, unless there's an emergency situation, and there are some, where you have like a life-threatening issue that you have to address, most of the time, you will be happier and healthier if you just say to yourself, now is not the time. I'm going to bring it up later, And I know everybody who's lived with someone who has depression knows exactly what that's like. That you have that perpetual list of things in your mind you'd like to talk to them about, and now is not the time. And a lot of successful negotiation of relationships isn't knowing what to say. It's knowing what not to say and when not to say it.
Speaking of what not to say and when not to say it, you said the thing about this is their depression talking, or this is the depression clouding their judgment, that you say it to yourself. Do you say it to them?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't say it that bluntly. What I might say, rather than saying that's the depression talking, saying, I know you. That's not you. You're not like that. You don't really think that. I might put it that way, rather than placing this sort of burden of this psychological problem on them that could make them feel bad or make them feel inferior. I want to frame it positive. Susan, I know you to be a kind and loving person. And that kind of talk just does not sound like the Susan I know. See what I just did there? I made my complaint to you, but I packaged it in a satin pillow that's so easy to lay your head on. No one's going to argue with like, oh, okay, that's not bad. That's what the skilled communicator does. So I'll find a way to get my message to you, but I'm going to package it very politely, very gently.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to hear when you're a person who has depression.
Right.
You had also just mentioned that there are times when someone is at risk, and maybe they're not ready for the conversation. Are there ways that you can approach that kind of situation?
Yes. Sometimes what we need to do is just physically be present with someone. Sit with them, stay with them, put your arm around them, hold their hand, sit across the other side of the room, but say, I'm going to stay here with you. And if you don't want to talk to me, that's okay. I won't talk to you now, but I want to be with you right now. And I want you to know that I'm here for you. Whenever you feel like you want to start talking, I'll be happy to do that, but I'm not going to force you into it right now. In an emergency situation where you need to keep an eye on somebody and make sure that they don't do something dramatic, that might be your best tactic, and not to force them into something where they feel cornered. So like if you don't want to hold hands, you don't want to sit next to me on the sofa, that's fine. I'll sit on the other side of the room then. But I want to, it's got to be too. I'm not judging you. I'm not here to stop you from doing something. I'm going to focus it on me, not you, me. I want to be with you. I want to be with you right now. And even if we can't talk, I just want to be with you. And I want you to know that I value my time with you. That's a hard message to deliver. And it takes it takes a cool hand to do that in an emergency situation. But that's your best thing, rather than trying to coerce them into having a conversation with you. Because if they start feeling cornered and trapped, that can backfire on you real easily.
One of the things that we talk about is to give choices. That
yes.
We need to do something. Would you rather that we go to this hospital, or that we call mobile crisis, whatever it happens to be?
Choice is such a fantastic thing. I don't know a human being who responds negatively to it. I mean, we all love to have choices. It's when we're told you have no choice, that's when things go really badly. But you're right, to present people with choices. Would you like to talk about this later? I'd be happy to do that. Or do you want to talk about this now? What a fantastic tactic that is, because who doesn't like that?
Someone wrote, I sometimes feel that in the effort to be a consistent, calm support for my spouse, I bury my own emotions like frustration and fear, and it's draining. Do you have any advice?
Yes, that a very, very common scenario for loved ones of people with depression. And a lot of times what you end up having to do is find other sources of support. It is so hard to accept that, my spouse right now, let's say it's my spouse, cannot be my source of support. I cannot be that confidant. And for crying out loud, when I got married, I thought that's what I was marrying. In fact, it was what I was marrying. That's why I got married to this person, and now they've changed. What's going on? Yeah, I get it. That's not a pleasant feeling. What you have to do to make yourself well and as fit as you can be, so you can be there for the person with depression, is find out, well, who can listen to you? Do you have an adult child? Do you have a sibling? Do you have a parent? Do you have a coworker? Is there someone else in your life who you can share your misery with and your concern, who will listen to you in a non-judgmental fashion? For the time being, you may have to shift your orientation from your spouse for that kind of talk, or your partner, to somebody else in your life. And you may have to just say, this is a moment when they're not going to be able to be there for me. And I got to be there for them, but I still have needs. And so I have to find others in my life who I can commiserate with. And that's where things like support groups are so valuable, because you join up with other people who are going through the exact same problems you are, and you can share stories and techniques and tips, and that can be really beneficial. But that's the way. Look, you can't build a whole like marriage this way, or a whole long-term relationship. This is a temporary, while we're in the throes of the depression, I'm going to shift my orientation to kind of talking with someone else and get my support from them until I can get my spouse back into my life, or my adult child, or my sibling, or whoever it is that I'm trying to work on with that relationship.
And in the on the path of self-care, someone asked, how do you take care of yourself when it seems to make the other person upset, as if they're angry that you're happy or that you're doing something good for yourself?
Right. Why not? You talked about choices before. Give them the choice of coming along for the ride. And I mean that symbolically, not maybe literally in some cases. If going out for a ride in the country is how you clear your mind. Hey, you want to come along with me? Or I'm going to go out for a walk. You want to come with me? I'm going to go to a yoga class. I'm going to go to a movie. I'm feeling bad right now. I just want to do something to distract. But do you want to participate with me? Let them know that they are welcome with you, and that you would like to be with them and share your happiness and your joy and your time with them. If they don't want to, don't force the issue then. But you will feel better about yourself knowing that you gave them the option of possibly enjoying that time with you, that activity with you that you do for your own self. So it doesn't, I might say, like, for example, I'm going to go to yoga class, and I know you're not into yoga, but if you ever were, or I'm going to go to the gym, and I know you're not like a weightlifter, but if you ever wanted to come with me just to see what it's like, I'd love to have you come along. And if they say no, then say no, but you feel good about the fact that you've extended a hand to them, an open hand to say, I'd love to do this thing with you. And if they say no and still resent you for doing something that makes you happy, then to turn it right back around and say, listen, I would love for you to share this with me. But if you're not willing to, it's something that means a lot to me. And I'd ask that you just respect me for the hour or two of the day that I do this thing. And, I hope for the day when we can do this together and you can share in this. You may actually like it.
I suppose that's true. Someone asked a question, when a loved one is doing like everything that they're supposed to do in terms of treating their mental health condition. But I think this actually applies a lot more broadly, but they see other people living good lives, and it is painful that that's not them. And I think there's a lot of that is happening with young adults these days, with COVID and with social media. So I think in the broader sense, how are there good ways to talk with, this next generation and about not comparing themselves, or I think some of it is giving hope.
Absolutely. The phenomenon you're talking about, we refer to as upward social comparison, looking at people who have better things than us. In the 80s, there was a TV show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And you could sit in your little, apartment and watch people in Miami Beach with their Porsche and their big house with pillars. And it just made you feel terrible because it's like, I don't have any of that. One thing I say to people is, don't buy into that illusion, because that's what it is. Those people have problems too. They don't put it on the lifestyles of the rich and famous. They're problems. They put all the good things, the sports cars and the beautiful house and the swimming pool, but everybody has problems. And by the way, a great antidote to upward social comparison is what we call downward social comparison. You want to feel good about how you've got it? Hop in my car and let me take you down to the inner city. Let's take a spin around some neighborhoods and I'll show you people who've got it rough. Remind people that, it's all relative. if you look to the rich and famous and feel bad about yourself, you could just as easily look to the homeless and feel good about yourself, and by not so much yourself, but by what you have. And that troubles, things like depression, things like anxiety, things like financial difficulties, even, they're practically universal. All people struggle with them in their own way. There are some very miserable and lonely people, who are extraordinarily wealthy and successful in business and whatnot, but lacking a lot of happiness in their personal life. So the point is don't buy into the illusion. The 1 minute video that someone puts on TikTok or Facebook, or the little 2 sentences they put on Twitter about this great thing that happens to them, that's giving you a thin sliver of their life. And I promise you, if you look deeply, you will find that they have troubles too. And never, ever forget that. People's difficulties and their challenges are so often invisible to most of us, but no one is immune, nobody, from the kind of troubles we were talking about.
Okay. Continuing on the next generation theme, I just want to put in a plug that if people have questions about communication with teenagers, we do have our next webinar in our communication series coming up. Guessing it's November 9th, but go to the same place to register on familyaware.org/trainings. What are some ways that a caregiver, or activities that a caregiver can offer to their offspring to help build a trusting and supportive relationship?
What a great question. The very fact that you can ask that question and think that way tells me you're on the right path already. Look, when you're dealing with young people, you want to start by meeting them on their own terms. Find out what means something to them, what's valuable to them. It's like taking a child to a Disney cartoon. As an adult, we're like, oh, brother. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Some adults like Disney cartoons, but you may not. You just take your child because you know they enjoy it. You take them to the theme park, or you take them out miniature golfing or whatever. Use that mentality. Show them that you respect, you understand, you value their values, and you want to support them. And by doing that with them, you build such amazing cachet and social capital. So if your son or daughter like punk rock, say, I'll take you to the punk rock concert, and I'll just stand in the back. I'll plug my ears and listen to it or something. Boy, did your value, your stock just went up with that child 9 times out of 10. This is what I mean by meeting them on their terms, and start by simply doing things that they want to do. Oh, you want to go shopping at the mall? I'll take you shopping at the mall. Okay, you want to go miniature golfing, the baseball game? Find out the things that they value. I know this sounds crazy to people in my generation, but hey, could you teach me that video game you've been playing? That looks pretty cool. Boy, could you build brownie points with a 13-year-old with that tactic? And just experience those things with them. And that starts to build the rapport. What other video games do you have? And then when the time is right, you then get into the conversation. But you want to start by kind of walking in their footsteps a lot, with them, supporting them, and let them know that I'm willing to do this with you. Like I said, the brownie points you can get with an adolescent doing that are remarkable.
We are caught off guard because this time has just flown by. I very much would like to thank you, Dr. Segrin, for spending this time with us and sharing all of those amazing ideas and all of that insight. I also want to thank everybody for joining us for this time, and just giving my last plug to please let us know what was good about the webinar, what you wished we had covered that we didn't. And we're planning webinars all the time. So let us know what else you'd like to learn. I hope you all have a very pleasant evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.